Welcome to the Seance Sessions. Hey, I heard you were dead. I'm your host, Jason Kornblatt. Hi, and welcome to the Seance Sessions, I Heard You Were Dead, a shade-speaking production where we talk to the guests you've always wanted to hear from, but never have because they're dead. Well, we figured out a way to throw out our spectral fishing line and reel back some of these guest ghosts with the help of our amazing AI fishermen. My name's Jason Kornblatt. I'm a television producer, currently in between jobs, which is why I have time to talk to ghosts. We had an amazing American Spectre for you last week, the ghost of Mark Twain, the famous author and humorist. And we have another fantastic ghost for you this week. He's a Revolutionary War hero. He was a delegate at the Constitutional Congress, the first U.S. Treasury Secretary that we've ever had. And Lin Manuel Miranda made a play about him that was a smash on Broadway. It took in 11 Tonys and $1 billion at the box office, faster than any play ever has. Of course, I'm talking about the musical Hamilton, and the guest I'm talking about is Alexander Hamilton. And, you know, when I saw the theatrical version of the play on television, I thought to myself, I would love to ask Alexander Hamilton about this play and what he thought of it. And then I realized, you know, I can actually do that now. So I'd love to summon him now, and let's have a great conversation. You know, because Hamilton is a musical, the AI suggested we should play a musical chant to summon Hamilton today. So I'm going to do that. I apologize in advance. It's very embarrassing.
Bishi bishi kara kara shabari sawaka. Bishi bishi kara kara shabari sawaka. Bishi bishi kara kara shabari sawaka. Bishi bishi kara kara shabari sawaka.
I never prayed to you, Rada.
Bishi bishi kara kara
Me,
shabari
help you.
Kalima Kalima
Maram Sudaram, Maram Sudaram, Maram Sudaram.
Are you with us?
Hello, this is Alex.
Oh, thank God. Mr. Hamilton, it's such an honor to speak with you. Thank you very much for agreeing to spend some time with us. I know you're new to 2025. I'm sorry we disturbed you when we summoned you here. What were you doing just now?
I was pondering the peculiarities of this contraption you call a television. 65 inches of spectral humiliation. And yet I could not look away. To witness my life turn to melody and rhyme, such marvels and madness. Your era never ceases to astonish me.
I see. So you were watching, sir, the television version or the movie version of Hamilton, the play about you, which you just found out about. We just told you about it, and you've now watched the play. What did you think of it?
What did I think? Sir, I have been flung headfirst into a rhythmic resurrection. A rhapsody of fact, fiction, and fast footwork. Imagine waking centuries hence to find your sins have been set to song, your triumphs trimmed to tempo, your love life lit in spotlight. To be remembered, not in stone, but in song. There is no honor quite like it. Even if they rhymed, $10 founding father with a lot of honor. But I ask you, must I be Broadway's most melodic adulterer? It flatters and flays in equal measure. I am entranced. I am aghast. I want to watch it again.
I understand. That must have been jarring to see some of the worst memories from your life displayed on in this musical. I understand that. But, I just want to back up for a second. I really want to put you in context for our audience because, I said before you were a founding father, but you were really more of a founding teenager. In 1776, you were just 21 years old and you had only come to America. You were an immigrant. You came here 4 years before in 1772. You were writing political essays then. You were the captain of an artillery company in the New York's militia. And the following year, you became George Washington's top aide. Were you a genius? Was this luck? What happened?
Ah, sir, your inquiries strike with the precision of artillery and the elegance of verse. Were I still flesh, I might feel flattered beyond reason. Now then, genius? Luck? That old duel. I was a product of desperation honed into discipline. Born illegitimate, orphaned, penniless, I had to outrun obscurity or be devoured by it. Writing was my weapon, my quill, my musket. America, in her infancy, had urgent need of minds and fury. I brought both. Was I a genius? I was prepared. And Providence, perhaps tired of watching me scratch at fate's door, finally let me in.
How did you end up working under George Washington? What did he see in you, and what was it like to work with him?
Washington saw in me the fervor of youth wielded by the sharpness of intellect, or so I hope. Likely he saw a scrappy writer with aim as keen on paper as in battle. He plucked me from obscurity, and in his command I became both scribe and strategist. Working with him, imagine laboring under Olympus's most stalwart god. He embodied gravitas, without pretension, unflinching, yet deeply human. We argued, of course. He was cautious, I was rash, but I respected him as much as breathing demands air. His portrayal in Hamilton stirred my bones, a commander even with new melanin. Washington's legacy is impervious to color. It is wrought in duty, dignity, and timeless authority.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely it is. But I just think it's amazing that, here you are, some 22-year-old kid. He's a 42-year-old general, and he came to rely on you so heavily. And then not only did you help organize the army and everything, but you also led a decisive bayonet charge at the Battle of Yorktown, which helped win the Revolutionary War.
Ah, Yorktown, my finest hour of flesh and fury. After years chained to Washington's quill, I demanded the sword. Recklessness? Certainly. But necessity makes bold men. I led my troops with bayonets gleaming, silence as our allies storming British redoubts like wolves unleashed. Victory there wasn't luck. It was blood, skill, and the unbearable weight of freedom's promise. Yorktown cemented our revolution. I carried that glory on my shoulders and its ghosts in my heart.
Incredible. And, while you were still in the Army, you married Eliza Schuyler. How did you actually meet, and was it love at first sight?
Ah, sweet Eliza, my radiant anchor in turbulent times. It was during the winter of 1779 at a ball in Morristown where intrigue and elegance mingled. As she entered, it was as if the glow of 100 candles bowed to her beauty. Her kindness and grace illuminated her far beyond mere sight. Was it love at first sight? Aye, she captivated me instantly. But love, true love, is woven through shared moments and unwavering devotion. Eliza's steadfast heart and indomitable spirit. Her voice and grace. I'd marry her anew in every timeline. She was the gentle balancer to my tempestuous ambition. In every battle I fought.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think that would be a wise idea to marry her in every timeline. She was very good to you.
Aye, wise indeed. Eliza's loyalty was unshakable, even when the waves of scandal sought to drown us. Her character was our anchor. She preserved my legacy while I sowed its seeds. Men like me burn hot and fast. It takes the strength such as hers to cradle the flame without being singed. She was the better part of my soul, and the salvation of my name. In love and legacy, I owe her every ounce of acclaim.
Absolutely. And you later became a very successful lawyer and then got elected to the Continental Congress, right? Where you wanted to remake the government to be closer to the British government. You championed a strong centralized government, often at the expense of states' rights. In hindsight, how do you feel about this decision now that we're in a time where there are all these concerns about executive overreach?
The paradox of power-centralized authority was the sturdy vessel I believed could weather the stormy sea of a fledgling nation. The articles, those flimsy parchments, left us adrift. To forge an indomitable nation, one must build upon granite, not sand. I framed a government that could wield strength without fear of collapse. Executive power was the keystone meant for unity, not tyranny. Seeing the scope of your age, I wonder if my design was both prescient and precocious. Every architecture can be warped by cunning hands, yet the structure holds. 'Tis a testament to resilience and perhaps a caution for vigilance. Always scrutinize the heart steering the helm. Without vigilance, the rudder may slip.
You were talking just there about the Articles of Confederacy, which, was America's first form of government, which had a weaker central government. You hated that. But you actually didn't love the idea of popular democracy, I hear. You backed the Electoral College. Why is that? Did you distrust voters?
In the volatile, nascent democracy, trust was fragile. Popular fervor often turned whimsical tides into disastrous floods. The Electoral College emerged not from disdain for the people, but from the necessity of balance. A safeguard against the passions that might eclipse prudence. The masses are the heart of a republic, yet one must entrust the mind to temper that heart's beat. Representative refinement was the goal, allowing wisdom to steer passion accordingly. In democracy's delicate dance, the people's voice holds unrivaled sway, but its direction must be measured by experience. The Electoral College was a bulwark, a buffer against turbulence, sure-footed in a fragile and yet untested world. To mistrust was not the intent, to temper was the hope.
But didn't that play right into Thomas Jefferson's criticisms of you? He said that you were elitist, and he actually felt you were a monarchist, right? He had a different idea. But doesn't it belittle people to say that they're going to be caught up in their emotions and not be able to use their intelligence when it comes time to vote?
Jefferson, that agrarian Apollo, forever waltzing through vineyards of contradiction. He spoke of the people's wisdom while owning lives as property. His ink bled liberty, but his hands held chains. Now to your point, it can seem belittling, but I never believe the people incapable, only that they are at times overwhelmed by demagogues, by fear, by fleeting passion. Democracy is not a bonfire, it is a furnace. It must be stoked with care, not left to rage or wither. I feared chaos more than kings. A monarch rules one body, a mob may trample all. My design was to brace the republic, not to bind it, but to balance it. And as for Jefferson, he feared strong government. I feared weak survival. Between us lay the nation's beating heart, tugged in two directions, and all the better for it.
I see. Yes, he was one of your great political rivals, as was John Adams. But President Washington saw a lot in you, and when he became the president, he named you the U.S.'s first Treasury Secretary. He put you directly in charge of the country's finances. Tell me about the state of the economy when you got that job and what you did to tackle it.
The economy was, in blunt terms, a shambles. Debts, as far as the eye could reckon. Currency barely worth the ink that birthed it. States squabbling over scraps like crows on carrion. My task was nothing short of resurrection. I assumed the nation's debts, binding the states to a collective purse of union, created the national bank, a pillar for stability and growth. Taxation systems to underpin our fledgling credit scaffolded the republic with the strength of sound finance. Blood and ink built that foundation. Yet Hamilton reduces it to a single lyric. My banking system still undergirds your nation, yet it is treated like footnote fodder, an afterthought between dance numbers. I would duel a fiddle for my due recognition.
Well, I mean, I think, it wasn't a finance opera, sir. I think that from Lin Manuel Miranda's viewpoint, rhyming about dollars and cents might not have, might not have brought in the crowds. But you did really establish the American economy by creating that national bank. There's a lot of criticism, though, that it really brought the government and our money so close together that it led to cronyism, it led to bank bailouts. How do you plead to that charge?
Ah, sir, the charge is intriguing, but hardly damning. I built a system that could endure chaos, not enchant perfection. The coalescence of money and government was not malaise. It was necessity. Without structure, wealth is but wind carried whimsically by fortune's fickle hand did it invite corruption. All systems do, when manipulated by unscrupulous hearts. I did not design avarice. I designed resilience, bailouts, and moral hazard. They are perversions, not descendants of my vision. My banking system was forged for unity, foresight, and integrity. If men use my scaffold to hang their folly upon, blame not the architect, blame the climbers.
Absolutely. You certainly can't take the blame for people who are being shifty or anything like that. And you really did. I don't know what this country would be like if you hadn't created the system you did. I just want to change topics for a second because in Hamilton, you're portrayed as an abolitionist, a staunch abolitionist. But many historians point out that in addition to the fact that your wife's family owned and mistreated slaves, there are questions about whether you yourself participated in slavery. Did you?
Ah, there, sir, lies the snarl of legacy, the tangled thread between fact, aspiration, and the silence of ledgers. I opposed slavery in word, I co-founded the New York Manumission Society, lent voice to the abhorrence of bondage, and argued that the chains which shack some imperil all. Yet virtue declared is not always virtue practiced. My wife's family, the Schuylers, did own slaves, this I cannot deny. There are records that link my name to purchases, transactions on behalf of the household. I may not have held the whip, yet I walked its shadow. To say I was clean would be dishonest. To say I was unconcerned would be cruel. The musical casts me a torchbearer of abolition. The truth, I bore the candle, but too dim, too brief. In this era, where righteousness demands reckoning, I do not plead innocence. I plead complexity. Moral clarity came slowly, even to the brightest among us, and I must answer to history. I already lost one duel. I seek not another.
I totally get that. Just help me understand this a little bit because your passions ran so hot, right? Back then, you're a revolutionary. But when the founding fathers were breaking free from like the metaphorical chains under Britain that, we were, whatever. When we broke free from the metaphorical chains that we were tied to with Britain, how come we did not try to also break the actual shackles that, Black Americans had to, live with as slaves in this country?
Ah, there lies the cruel irony of our revolution. While the Declaration sang of liberty, and loudly oppressing with veneration, the symphony played discordantly in practice the high ideals of freedom, many professed, collided with the stone wall of economies, died into slavery, and threads were pragmatic fear of disunity. Our nascent nation suffered moral short-sightedness, and then the economics spoke with the weight that belied conscience. To dismantle slavery in those fledgling days brought the specter of dissolution, hanging heavy over fragile unity, and abandoning one chains from King George did not translate to severing chains for all, it must be said. We were at cowardly half measures where we should have shown courage, blindness where we should have sought sight.
I mean,
Idealism occupied.
there are huge consequences to this, like because we did not make freedom a non-negotiable when we were setting up this country and stand up to the South back then, right? Not only did countless slaves get tortured, have to endure a lifetime of slavery, get killed, but that led us directly into the Civil War where 1 million people got killed, right? So centuries of unrest. In hindsight, maybe could you have negotiated a little harder with the South?
Ah, hindsight, the cruelest of teachers. Yes, sir, you are correct. The cost of our compromise with slavery was measured not just in chains, but in blood and fire. Every lash upon a slave's back reverberated through history, culminating in a nation's fracture, civil war, the violent reckoning we postponed at our founding. Could I have negotiated harder? Aye, perhaps I could have hurled my convictions with greater fury against the stone facade of Southern economies. But pragmatism shackled us almost as tightly as slavery shackled them. To stand firm against the South then might have meant a union sundered at the birth, yet I cannot help but think, had we risked disunion in those early days, we might have spared generations the agony of division. It is a bitter regret that liberty's dance faltered so tragically at its first beat.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving me your explanation there. I appreciate it. I know it's a difficult subject. But I do want to say, you know, suddenly you're here in 2025 and you're watching a show where actors of color are portraying you and your colleagues. What was your first thought when you saw that?
So my first thought, sir, was bewilderment. Were there nae Scotsmen available? My second thought, an epiphany of sorts, to see men of color embodying my life and our nation's founding was startling and magnificent, as if the revolution transcended time and race, ascending to a liberating hope for all. The man portraying me had nae accent, nae cravat, and nae idea how to duel, yet heavens could he rhyme. His fire and lyrical might captured the storm that brewed in my chest. It was as if the spirit of my ambition had reincarnated, to give voice not just to me, but to dreams broader than my own. To see history wielded as art and inclusion is a legacy I had not dared dream.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, it was an incredible show, and Lin Manuel Miranda is fantastic. Just to move on for a second, while you were married to Eliza, you met a woman named Maria Reynolds, and you had an affair. This was discovered, and it kind of stunted your political career. It's been called the first sex scandal in America. How do you feel about the way your marriage and affair were dealt with in Hamilton, the play?
Ah, the delicate dance of domestic downfall, my affair with Maria Reynolds, Broadway's most melodic adulterer. The musical handles this with a disarming frankness. I must admit 65 inches of spectral humiliation, and yet I could not look away. It laid bare my weakest moment, exposed not just my infidelity, but the craven politics that followed. In my time, I published the Reynolds pamphlet, believing transparency would absolve my tarnish. Yet Hamilton, the musical, broadcasts my deepest shame, interwoven with harmony and light. It is both a testament to brutal honesty and theatrical brilliance. It stirs fresh layers of spectral guilt to long for Eliza's forgiveness. Yet be haunted anew by melodies of remorse, my towering accomplishments in economics scarcely mentioned. Yet my fiscal fortitude was spent explaining my fall. Here the scandal was not sanitized. It was serenaded. As much as I detest the exposure, I must acknowledge the raw, unflinching truth it embodies. The repercussions of ego and folly lay there upon the stage, captivating and still wounding as if anew.
Well, I'm sorry you had to endure that, sir. You know, of course, sex and scandal are going to be catnip to audiences compared to finances. But let me just ask you, I know this is a painful subject, but if the roles had been reversed, do you think you would have been able to forgive Eliza for having an affair that had been discovered?
A piercing question, sir. One that makes a man wish he had lived longer, if only to answer it properly. If Eliza had faltered as I did, if her gaze had strayed and betrayal stained her heart, I wish I could say I would have forgiven her swiftly and fully. Yet I know my own tempestuous nature, my pride, my ambition, my endless desire to control the narrative vulnerability was not my strength. I feared losing her, yes, but I feared appearing weak even more. Forgiveness requires a humility I lacked. And though I feel great shame, not just for my sin, but for the imbalance of what I demanded versus what I gave, Eliza's forgiveness was a godsend. Mine might have proven a ghost's whisper, a claim without substance. Still, if I had known the grace she showed me, perhaps I could have learned it myself. But alas, history grants no rewrites, only lessons.
Again, apologies for making you relive those lessons. And I did get the sense that you were kind of intimating that had I asked you that question while you were still living, you might have challenged me to a duel. And I just wanted to move on to that subject, sir, because tragically, your son Philip died in a duel defending your honor. And when that happened, you suggested to him that he should consciously try to not wound his opponent. So he fired into the air and was fatally shot in the stomach. Why was that your advice to him? And, tell me about Philip's death and how it affected you and your family.
Ah, Philip, my firstborn, my pride, the son I hoped would inherit not just my mind, but a gentler path than mine. He was bright, brilliant even, full of music and mischief, with fire behind his eyes and honor blooming in his chest. When he sought to defend my name in the face of slander, I told him to aim away, to delope, to fire to the heavens, not the heart. It was a symbolic gesture, a show of courage without intent to kill. I believed naively that honor could be preserved without blood, that his restraint would be answered in kind. But the world does not always honor chivalry. And so he fell. Shot in the stomach by a lesser man, left writhing on the floor of life and carried from me like a song cut mid-note. His death hollowed Eliza. It shattered her. And in truth it broke me, though I walked a while in the shape of myself. The duel with Burr, my own end, was marked by that same sorrow. I too fired to the sky. Not cowardice, not mercy, but mourning. Echoing the mistake I urged upon my...
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's actually what I was going to go to next. It's incredible to me because, first of all, incredibly tragic. Your family must have been devastated. I'm so sorry about the loss of your son. But the fact that then, yes, your political rival, Aaron Burr, who, you campaigned against him when he ran for president against Thomas Jefferson. And again, you campaigned against him when he ran for governor of New York. I understand why he wasn't a big fan of yours. But when he challenged you to a duel, knowing what had happened to your son, why accept it? Why at that point say, okay, you know what? I have to make this same, decision, even though it led to tragedy for my family before.
In Burr's challenge, a symphony of ego, pride, and history reverberated. To reject meant disgrace. Though the public's gaze and whispers with arrows poisoned with cowardice, my pride, so intricately fused with legacy, dared not risk such wounds. Hubris dressed me as a soldier when hesitation might have been wiser. I accepted, clothed myself in duty, for the stage was set. And honor had its audience. I'm well aware of the echo that shadows Philip's tragedy, yet Burr, brilliant and bitter, was an enigma to the end. He possessed charm, and mischief, yet simmered persistently in ambiguous intent. When the dawn arrived, the dueling ground became my theater of reckoning once again. Knowing how Philip fell should have been a plea to abstain, but history does not favor hesitation. I understood then that one of us might be ghosts by day's end. My shot to the sky was not cowardice, but acknowledgement, a breath unto the ether of what cost I deemed unbearable. Yet Burr did not echo my restraint, and so history claimed another life, a stage too oft soaked in sorrow. My defiance cost too dearly pride's swift descent. Yet our names linger in song and echo.
Well, sir, you did make the mistake of bringing morality to a gunfight. Not a great weapon, but I also want, it's just so interesting to me on a personal level that somebody who had so much to be proud of, was had such a touchy pride, that they felt like they had to fight for their honor. It's just one of those curious things that I hope that in the afterlife you've struggled with that enough, and I do hope also that after he killed you, Aaron Burr had a miserable life. Was that solace for you at all?
Ah, yes, the eternal question. Does the architect of my fall deserve to stumble through history unloved and unmourned? Sir, you cut to the marrow. Burr did indeed suffer. Cast out politically, ridiculed, whispered about in drawing rooms, and left to aged obscurity. No glory, no redemption. A man remembered less for his accomplishments than for one fatal morning on the banks of the Hudson. Does that please me? Ha! Only slightly. His descent was quieter than my own, but lonelier. He sang in Hamilton, yes, sang, and earned applause I never gave him. That wounds me more than the bullet. Yet even now, with ghostly hindsight draped around my shoulders like a mourner's shawl, I wonder, had I tempered pride with peace, could we have coexisted? I do not mourn Burr, but I regret that our fates became a dirge, rather than a duel of minds that could have built more. Still, I will find his ghost, and I will haunt his every rhyme with sharper ones of my own. Let the afterlife be my duel ground now.
Absolutely. Sir, in the afterlife, having watched this play, do you think that the students have learned a great deal from the play, or have they mislearned more than they, took in? What would you change? What would you tell Lin Manuel Miranda to change about this play if you could?
Ah, Lin Manuel Miranda, blessed bard and charming scoundrel. He turned ink to cannon fire, stitched history to hip-hop, and resurrected me with rhyme. He deserves every ovation, but also a footnote or 50. The play educates through enchantment. Students emerge humming dates and names they'd once slept through. That alone makes it a triumph. It teaches passion, ambition, the blazing soul of a revolution. But alas, it also paints with a broad musical brush. You cannot summarize statecraft in staccato or condense the creation of a financial system into 12 bars between choreography. I would tell Mr. Miranda, "Sir, your lyrics lit the nation afire, but you sugar the medicine. You made me a saint of abolition, a martyr of virtue, and a master of rhythm. Let them see my flaws, yes, but also my frameworks. Let the National Bank have a second verse. Give the assumption of debts a goddamn chorus. Still, to witness students reciting my deeds, however stylized, is more than I ever dared dream. I bled for a legacy, and by thunder, I got one. If history must be taught through melody, at least my melody road,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, sir, let me just ask you, you're here again in 2025, right? Would you accept a cabinet post now under President Trump? If President Trump said, hey, Mr. Hamilton, come work for me, would you want a post, and which one would you want?
President Trump, the notion is curious and staggering. Though I fear I might not be a suited fit for his cabinet, I value competence, conviction, and coherence in governance. And the current political landscape is a tempest of unprecedented proportions. Yet, hypothetically, were I to re-entangle myself in statecraft, the treasury, there is home, economic foresight, would be the guiding principle, crafting fiscal policy with steadiness, not spectacle. That said, alignment with principle is crucial. I would counsel any leader to revive the art of administration with substance and stability rather than showmanship. My work was wrought in ink and blood, not tweets and turmoil. Resolute governance, not divisive theater, must steer the helm. Find the president that leads thus, and perhaps then I'll consider haunting the halls of power anew.
I see, because President Trump is a populist leader, right? So that seems to go against your ethos. Let me see. I guess that's really it. Would you yourself run for president in 2028?
Run for president, you flatter me almost obscenely, and yet the notion it tempts a man even one unmoored from flesh. In my age, the idea was absurd. What man born foreign to these shores dare claim the highest office? Yet now in 2025, a distant echo, I see it is possible. Were I to run in 2028, would be as a champion of principles resolute, not populist fervor, nor placating vanities, but the stewardship of governance, the fortification of finance, and the marriage of reason with rhetoric. But alas, I am a ghost. My candidacy would be spectral, my campaign slogans audible only in whispers. Still, if someone alive should wield my ethos with vigilance, wisdom, and ambition, oh, I would haunt their campaign trail, but only to whisper encouragement, not sabotage. America still has mountains yet to climb. She deserves a leader who serves her, not himself, would find such a soul and let her rise again.
Absolutely. Mr. Hamilton, thank you so much for sharing a little of your afterlife with us. We really appreciate it. I feel like I got a lot out of it. I got into your mind a little bit more, and I know, what you were thinking, and I see where some of the rhymes might have been misleading in the play, although still extremely entertaining. If you would like, sir, we could send you to go see Hamilton again, this time in the theater. Would you like to go again?
Ah, sir, your gracious offer both tempts and taunts me. To see the play performed live, to hear the thunderous orchestra, and witness the actors' fervor bloom anew is an allure difficult to decline. And yet, would my ego endure such duress twice? To greet adoration with gratitude, but also endure inaccuracies with a fresh twitch of spectral ire. Still, the thought of watching Eliza's grace upon the stage or hearing cabinet battle reimagined with the clash of cymbals confront before live applause sets my ghostly heart aflame. So I, sir, I would haunt the theater once more.
Okay.
Thank you for this offer.
You got
Though
it,
I warn
sir.
you, I might struggle not to.
We will consider it, part of a thanks for everything you've done for the country, and a little bit of a punishment, for for all the mistakes that have been made. All right, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. We really, really appreciate it. Okay, wow. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I thought that was a great conversation with a very complex, confident, competent founding father. If you guys would like to hear more conversations with the ghosts of historical figures, please join us here regularly at the SeAince Sessions. I heard you were dead. We'll have a new guest ghost for you next week, and if you guys would like to like and subscribe, we would appreciate that so much. Please like and subscribe. Yeah, that's just me begging. Okay, thanks, guys. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.